Welcome everyone to Tourism Exchange Great Britain Fireside Chats, a series of conversations with leaders from across the sector. We're going to be discussing the topic of tourism dispersal. We'll look at the challenges, digging out key insights.
One of the key things for me is collaboration,
pulling people together that actually can benefit from each other.
Welcome everyone to the next in our series of Fireside Chats. I'm James Berzins, the Managing Director of Tourism Exchange Great Britain, and I'll be hosting a series of conversations with leaders from across the sector. Today I'm joined by an amazing panel. I've got Lyndsey Turner Swift, who is the Deputy Visit England Director. I've got Sophie Braybrooke, the CEO of StayinaPub, and Amy Whittingham, the owner of AAA Food Tours here in the North East. We're going to be discussing the topic of tourism dispersal, which is really, really important to how we grow the economy in the UK. We're going to look at the challenges that we face in achieving that, and also the opportunities that it presents. So welcome to you all. I think it'd be really good to hear about your experience and share your knowledge. Let's get to know each of you. So we have Amy here first. So Amy runs a food tour in the North East. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Amy Whitfield. I run AAA Food Tours, running the business for coming up to 5 years now. So effectively I'm a tour guide, and I have a team of 9, including myself now. We run independent food tours right across the North East. So we host tours in Newcastle, in Durham and Northumberland, and also soon to be Edinburgh as well this year.
Cool. And we're really privileged to have you, Amy, because you're a finalist in the Visit England Superstar Award, so we've all got our fingers crossed for you. So speaking of Visit England, Lyndsey, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
I've been at Visit England for 16 years, so Visit England is the National Tourist Board for England. We have a big remit, but we're responsible for leading and enabling a resilient and sustainable visitor economy across England. That touches on a variety of activities, which no doubt we'll get into as part of the chat.
Fantastic. And Sophie, so you tell us about yourself and StayinaPub.
Yeah, well, StayinaPub is a online platform for pubs with bedrooms. We have about 1,500 listed, and that's across the whole of the UK. They are listed with us on 2 bases, and 500 of those are members, and they've chosen to be listed with us because they believe that being on a more specialist platform and getting the message across about why it's so different to stay in a pub as opposed to other types of accommodation is really valuable. I think staying in a pub is something that's very, very truly British. I think somebody once told me from Visit England that it's on the top 10 things to do when visiting this country. So we're there to get that message across and promote the sector. And
we're obviously sat in a pub right now in the North East in Durham, the King's Lodge Inn. So thank you for having us here. And what I think the challenge with tourism dispersal is we've got a sector that has got its biases towards certain areas, whether that's domestic or international visitors tend to sort of go to the same sorts of places. Certainly the inbound market focuses on London and the South East. I think London is something like the third most visited city in the world. And actually when people go to London, they tend to stay quite central as well. So actually getting people out of Zone 1 and 2 is in itself a challenge, and getting them to experience everything that the UK has to offer is the next step, really. So what we really want to talk about today is how people from across the whole supply chain work together and meet that challenge. I think maybe starting with yourself, Lyndsey, just explaining that challenge of dispersal and as actually what Visit England are looking to do strategically to solve that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic. And as I say, if we think of dispersal as an opportunity rather than a challenge, I think that's a great way to look at it. We're in the process of developing a strategy for England, and clearly regional dispersal will be at the heart of that strategy in terms of one of the things that we're trying to drive. And we'll want to do that in collaboration. So recognising that actually tourism drives the economy, but actually it's also really important to local communities and also can drive sustainable outcomes. So the strategy, we're very people focused in terms of tourism as an employer and how it can enrich people's lives, but also place focused in terms of, the fantastic product, pubs, clearly Amy's food tours that make up such an important part of our industry, And that regional distinctiveness that we know is really, really important, that will support those dispersal objectives. We'll want to do that in partnership. We can't tackle tourism dispersal alone. As I say, it's a big, meaty issue. So at the heart of that strategy is how we, as the National Tourist Board and government and all the different parts of the industry, including our destinations and also tourism businesses and national parks and other important players, can kind of work together to unlock and untap that potential. London's really important. We cannot forget how important London is. It's an amazing city. Inevitably, people come to the UK for the first time or England for the first time. They're going to want to go to the capital city. How do we use the power of London as an attractor and the power of some of our other cities to get people to kind of go out and experience more elsewhere? So, you know, we know a lot of people go London, Edinburgh. Actually, there's a lot of England in between London and Edinburgh, and how do we tackle that together? And obviously, clearly, we can support that and do that in lots of different ways, not just through promotion, but through some of our development activity, national and at regional and local level.
And I think, like you said, there's just so many different moving parts to it. There's something like 240,000 businesses, I think I saw somewhere in some paper that I was reading. And it's actually how do you bring everyone together and turn that challenge into, you know, to focus on the opportunity. There's that rich sort of tapestry of lots of different things that people can experience, but actually inherently, because there's so much choice and so much authentic, so many authentic experiences, that is quite fragmented, and you've got to try and bring all those
and a big priority for us over the past year, but into the year ahead, is rolling out essentially a new regional structure, which will support that regional dispersal objective. So as part of the government review, we've been working quite hard on that. So we're in the process of accrediting what we're calling local visitor economy partnerships, but there are kind of strategic, high-performing destination organisations that represent a local geography that we can work with as Visit England, but also as Visit Britain, to really pull some of that amazing product to the surface, support businesses, get them operating and working in partnership, making sure that there's a nice, neat route into our campaigns and our activities, that they've got access to training at their fingertips across some of those areas. So a real kind of concerted effort to deal with that fragmentation, because as you say, that I think that is one of the biggest challenges for dispersal. I think with a stronger regional network of high-performing organisations, there'll be just a much better dynamic between national and local level, but also between businesses and their destination organisation, that I think can really support that regional dispersal objective and regional growth.
And that's it, it's kind of like a backbone to it. So that you've got that backbone there that is driving that infrastructure and allowing everyone to work in a more consistent, cohesive and concerted. That's a really, really good word. So I guess the question is, you know, how do we all, as different parts of the sector, so as destinations, as distribution channels, as tourism businesses that have got a product to take to market, how do we, work together to really make sure that visitors experience or discover and experience those different experiences? So I think, Amy, if I start with you, because I think we've sort of heard, I guess, from a strategic national level how we want it to work and we want to bring partners together. But you're dealing with this challenge every day. How do you grow your business? And you've obviously done very well with that to date. What's your experience of it and what we think people need to do?
Sure. So when I started my business 5 years ago, I went a food tour, and I didn't actually, back then, I've never heard of a food tour before. It wasn't until family, we took a trip to New York, and we were approached by somebody in Times Square asking if we would like to take a food tour for a couple of hours. So that's how it kind of, come to my mind. And I was astonished. I'd never seen anything like it. And I fell in love with the concept. And I went back then looking and thinking, actually, the Northeast doesn't have anything like that at all, And then you fast forward about 9 or 10 years later, 8 or 9 years later, here I am running a food tour. And it's really off the back of that really authentic experience many years ago. And I think for me, the Northeast has a really, it is a good reputation for having an incredible nightlife. For people coming from all over, for different events and stag and hen do's. I'll say that because we have a good reputation. I'll give them a good old job. And that's good. That's good. That's excellent for the economy and for the region itself. But for me, I wanted to showcase something different. So I was looking at, actually, we've got some amazing restaurants. We've got some really good independent restaurants, some good Michelin star, some good Michelin guide, right through to some amazing indoor markets on the doorstep as well. And talking about the region, I've chatted about this today, and we're so lucky where we live because we've got a coastline, and in my opinion, is one of the best coastlines. And then we're, 20 minutes, 25 minutes from some major cities as well. So for me, it was looking at how do we get the word out about these food tours to the rest of the country, because we're really good in the Northeast.
And the world,
And the world, yeah. So for me, one of the key things for me is partnership and collaboration. And that comes right across the board, from the local market trader that I work with, the Michelin guide restaurant owner that I work with, and the chef and the staff behind the doors there. And working with NGI, Newcastle Gateshead Initiative, which has played a massive part in helping to grow my business, certainly over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I'm a massive believer in collaboration. So, for example, I have a good website. It's a good website, spent a fair bit of money on it, and once you get the consumer into that website, it does its business, I would say. It converts into bookings. But for me, it was, well, how do I get people to that website? So when I started my business, from my perspective, you want to do things that are cheap or free. So it was social media. So it was creating an Instagram account, a Facebook account. And, you do sit there as a business owner in the first week hoping you'll have 10,000 followers. It doesn't happen, because how do you get those people to come and how do you make yourself visible? So shortly after opening the business, I got in contact with NGI, and I learned about our local tourist information area within the region, and collaborating with them has massively helped my business. So, I have a good website, but that can only do so much. Instagram can only do so much. How can we bridge the gap from the local business, which we want, but, bridging that gap to further afield? So, your staycationers, people from overseas. So for me, TXGB really ticked a lot of those boxes, because it really helps get the word out there. And then platforms surrounding that, so the Visit Britain shop, New Adventures. And what I love about TXGB is I also advertise the business on Viator. Mm-hmm. I've got my website, TXGB. Actually, we can amalgamate all of those together, because before having TXGB, I had one account for Viator, one for the website and the booking system, which is Ticketing Hub that I use. And actually, it's quite time consuming to make sure if you're sold out on that Saturday, you book it out on Viator. Bringing that one booking platform, together, it really saves time. Yeah. So that's a massive benefit. But for me, we get out to the wider audience, and since kind of joining with these guys, it's really helped my business. I've seen growth.
I think what it's doing is echoing what Lyndsey's saying about actually that collaboration and working with those around you, getting extra reach by being part of maybe something like the New Ventures campaign. But making sure that you're connected into...
And it's a community in itself.
Yeah.
We were just chatting earlier on, and the customer service is amazing. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not the most tech-savvy person in the world. And I'm really sad to say about that, but I struggle with things like that for the business. I'm all about getting out there and showcasing the tourism things, but that back office, if you like, of the business, that doesn't always come that easy to me. So actually, it's a community when you're with TXGB, because if you need that help to amalgamate Viator and link it all in, or if you have any issues, then it's really good for that kind of help as well, which saves us time to use on other parts of the business.
Exactly. So, Sophie, I think you've got a slightly different perspective on this. So we've heard from Amy, who's really there trying to reach new customers and trying to, kind of help them experience a destination that maybe not considered, or like you say, a destination they thought of as maybe for a stag or a hen destination, but actually has got a whole diverse range of other opportunities there. I think, you said the word something different. I think it give the consumer something different in the North East, and I think something different is really a good phrase for staying in a pub, because the pub is not necessarily traditionally thought of as somewhere that you would stay, but it's really emerging as a fantastic segment.
It absolutely is. I mean, the investment that pubs have made in accommodation as a third and very, very important income stream, it's evident everywhere. We're sitting in one.
Yep.
And it's quite interesting when you think about the history of pubs. Pubs, they popped up all over the country in places that are actually really quite dispersed, because they were places to rest your weary head on your travels between London and Edinburgh, or from Bristol to, I don't know, Birmingham. So they are really well positioned in between those honeypots.
Yeah.
So the tradition of a traditional coaching inn actually sits very well with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And having so many all over the country, it's sometimes difficult for me to give them all their own kind of voice.
Yeah.
And there are obviously areas that are the hotspots, like the Lake District or Cornwall or those sorts of places. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we help our pubs optimise their capacity and occupancy throughout the year, and looking at what's slightly different in those areas. And what we're trying to do is actually do exactly what you're saying, Amy, is collaborations, brand activations, making sure that we're pulling people together that actually can benefit from each other. And things like growing your Instagram account, it really does work if you bring brands and attractions that have got a little bit more exposure, and you're teaming them up with your partner pubs. And we find that really works, and we do it quite a lot through competitions, we can see it really expands your reach. It really does. I think also sharing the love, and for us, taking different parts of the country, working with the destinations, working with attractions like yourselves, and having that particular area as our county in focus or area in focus works well. And I think we all can benefit from that collaboration and working together. StayinaPub has existed as a referral site for some years. And when I took over a couple of years ago, it's been our ambition to make our site more bookable. And the diversity of booking systems and IT systems out there has made that very difficult for us. So actually working with the likes of TXGB that's done that hard work for us, built those APIs, it's a really good way forward. And like Amy, we're just in the first steps of making all that happen. And we're very excited about it, and making sure that user journey and user interaction on our site works for not just booking accommodation, but further down the line, booking attractions and adding on to that experience. And I think we've all, heard the word experiential stays. And I think staying in a pub, plus all the other things you can do, whether it's a food tour or a winery or a brewery tour or whatever it might be, that's your experiential stay. And whether that's for the domestic market or from overseas, I think it's a really valuable product to sell out there.
Absolutely. I think the lines are blurred out there too. When you think about domestic, international, everyone's looking for experiences. And, what's clear is that we're all dealing with consumers. Consumers really are at the end of all of this. They want to be able to find something new, something authentic, and they want to be able to book it. And I think what we can see there is that there's that collaboration element of making sure that you're bookable with different types of channels, different types of campaigns. I think there's an interesting thing that you mentioned there. The dispersal is not just about regionality, it's about seasonality as well. And I think that's another area that it's great to see collaborations between destinations and potentially channels like StayinaPub and people that have got businesses say, I am a year-round business. I need to try and think about different ways. We don't just disperse people into different parts of the country, but we get them thinking about holidaying and experiencing things at different times. So I think really interested to think about technology as an enabler. We talk about the challenges with people using different technologies to run their business, but really technology should be an enabler. You spoke there, didn't you, Amy, about how it's worked for you. What have you seen as a difference since you've really embraced that technology? I think have you seen more international customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think in the early days of creating the business, it was very much guests from who want to be specific. When I've done the research, about 30-35 mile radius actually, so really, really local, and that's brilliant. But we want to grow that business, so it's for me. Since linking in with TXGB and all the other channels surrounding that, we've been seeing a lot more guests from not just down south or different parts of the UK. We get a lot of guests coming from different parts of the UK, but overseas. So a lot of Canadian guests from Europe, people from the cruise, DFDS. We've been seeing kind of a big growth actually last year, and I'm looking at the diary for this year, and we've got a lot of guests coming in off the back of some of the cruise liners. And I ask, where did you find us? And I know just from doing that little bit of market research from them that they're finding us through TXGB and those other platforms. So for me, I've really grown that overseas market probably within the last sort of 18 months, 2 years. Really just having a real drive with the platform. It's helped, definitely.
And so I guess technology also gives us data. I guess data is really, really important with VisitEngland, and really looking at that and saying, actually, how is the landscape changing? How is the strategy that we're putting in place? Moving over time.
Absolutely, it will definitely be a really important part of the first phase of the work that we're doing around strategy. Actually, what do we know, what don't we know?
Yeah.
And actually, which parts of the country do we need to have a stronger focus on? And it's great that we're in Durham and in the northeast, because we've got the Destination Development Partnership, which is part of rolling out the new landscape, and it's a government-funded 3-year, technically 2.5-year pilot, and I'm confident that quite a lot of what Amy's been talking about in terms of some of the work that she's been doing has been on the back of that Destination Development Partnership, because they're really driving forwards work around product development. So the new Adventures platform, it is one of their key campaign platforms to get more businesses across the North East onto that bookable platform. Another important part of that, I think connectivity is quite an important word that I'm hearing today, and there's obviously digital, which is a really valuable tool for businesses and be quite an easy, cheap way to get out there to international markets. But there's a lot of activity working with the travel trade. Mm-hmm. So obviously the more that you can have a bookable product or a product that has a trade price, then obviously there's real potential there. And the Destination Development Partnership has got a really strong trade platform and is working with us and very closely with Visit Britain. Clearly Visit Britain drive that international piece for us in terms of growth and everything. So that whole piece together is quite powerful, I think, in terms of surfacing some of that lesser known product in the North East and bringing that to the forefront through this pilot. So it's going to be really interesting to see the evaluation from that pilot, because it's a model that we want to roll out in different parts of the country. Yep. So we're all really getting behind it, trying to make it as successful as we can be, because actually we recognise how important regional dispersal is, a regional growth, and the North East is a real test bed. Lots of untapped potential.
Repeatable model, doesn't it? Then if we can get that right, and then see the, like you say, see the growth, see the results that starts to build on that. So I think we've talked today about the different parts, the technology, the need for collaboration, taking different perspectives from different parts of the sector. So I'm going to try and get one piece of advice for people entering the sector, and maybe if you're a pub that's thinking about accommodation, or if you're looking at, say, you've been somewhere else and you've seen an experience that they've created in another city, and you want to be able to bring it to your area. What advice would you have for someone new in the industry? I'll start with you, Sophie.
I mean, I guess with pubs, there's a big difference between a large pub group that has a whole team of marketing and an independent that, the landlady is doing everything. Mm-hmm. But my advice is just invest in some good imagery, some good videos, some good photography, because people buy with their eyes, and it's so important. And there are so many platforms out there that I see where no attention has been given to that, And I just think that's really crucial, whether it's on your own website, social media, or with pushing through any of your booking channels. I think for me that would be a really important thing. Also know your local area. So work with your local farmer producing lamb in the spring, or work with the local baker who's got sourdough that you can make a big story out of when you're serving it to your guests, and train your staff to know about the local area as well. Get them to story tell all the time and make it authentic. It's all about locally sourced, the provenance of the food people are eating, the locality and the community that they're staying in. I think for me that's really important, and that's what staying in a pub is all about. It's all about authentic experiences, real places, real people, and staying in a pub is that.
Oh, and I know you sit on the public accommodation forum.
Yeah.
What would you like to see change? Is there anything you'd like to see change in the industry to help kind of drive into this area and get more people staying in pubs? Really?
What would I like to change? So the Pub Accommodation Forum is a group that has a mixture of those that are pub groups, and they've got the best experience, and they are there to share that good experience and good practice across the sector. So as I said to you before, that those that haven't got the big budgets, they can give those nuggets that can really, really help. Then there are those that are tech providers for the sector. And it's really important to understand the data behind that and the connectivity that's available. But also there's industry bodies who are there really to keep championing it as a sector. And for me, I think that think tank is there to really put good practice out there, get good research through the year, but also, but we did a big research project last year, which we sent out to the industry. And I think things like that, sharing that experience, collaborating with each other, is the way forward. But if you were asking me in terms of the dog and duck, down the road, I go back to, I would really advise you to create your story. Where do you come from? What's the history behind your building? Who's in your surrounding area? Why are you the heart of the community? And that's exactly what pubs are.
Yep, absolutely. Amy, same questions for you. What advice would you give somebody, and are there any things that you would like to see change?
I think, again, I've said it before today, but for me, collaboration's key. Don't do it alone, because you'll find it very, very difficult. So for me, as a tour guide, when I started there was only just me in that business, no other tour guide. Although I was meeting the consumer every day, I had guests on tours every day, it's still a very lonely thing to create a business and have all these thoughts going around, in your head every day about new ideas and, procrastination, all the things that entrepreneurs are known for doing. I think get talking. And don't be afraid. We were just talking about this earlier on. Don't be afraid to talk to other businesses. It doesn't matter how big they are and how small you are. Nice. Approach them. And, the old Geordie saying is, shy Ben's getting out. So you don't ask, you're never going to know.
Learn that one again.
Shy Ben's getting out. It's true. I mean, an example for that is, a restaurant that I work with, Blackfriars Restaurant in Newcastle, and they have a couple of restaurants and quite well known in the Northeast. And they were actually the first people that I approached with the idea of a food tour. I was on maternity leave at the time, and I don't think I'd worn a suit for quite a while. In fact, I'd been just in indoor clothes for quite a bit, and I was like, I need to get out there and I need to knock on doors and physically network with people and ask, would you like to work with me for this food tour idea? Very daunting, but knocking on that door is the best thing that I could ever have done, because we've worked successfully for 5 whole years, and we've got other plans to work together for other things. And the other tip for that is emails don't work neither, just coming back to that. So this is just linking into that for me. And, I emailed businesses asking, would you like to collaborate for a food tour idea? And you get no response from that email, because they're very busy and it's not personal. And you do think that's a little bit personal sometimes, but it's not personal. you need to knock on the door. You need to make a phone call to get in that door and make an appointment to go and see them and sit down face to face and build that relationship. So coming back to that first question is, get talking.
Yeah.
Get talking. And then the second question for you is, what would I like to change? I want to get talking more. Literally, I think more talk. I can't recommend that enough. I've gone to some really good networking events, and sometimes when you run a business, and this is just from my point of view, you've got so many plates that you're spinning, and is that networking event that's going to take half of your day? Is that going to be any good, or shall we just not bother going to that? You should go to these local events, because actually who you could meet that day, that could change your business. And there's been a couple of people that I can say I've met that have changed my business off going to some of those events.
So not being afraid to speak to people, but actually step out of what you're doing and maybe out of your comfort zone and try different things, speak to different people.
And it's this thing of, you're not working in your business today, but you're working on your business today. So you're working on it. So being at that event, you're still working. You're just working on that business. Might not be a tour guide that day. We're getting something else from it. So, I'd say that's my little bit of advice.
Very good as well. Lyndsey, finally with you, what would you say?
Tap into all of the free advice and support that is available to you. Obviously, VisitEngland as a business advice hub. We have a fantastic training program called Taking England to the World that's all about, getting on that bookable journey, but also how to internationalise your business, which is free. I think I've done it. The business advice is brilliant. It's got a whole range of, advice ranging from how to grow your business, how to market your business, through to sustainable practices and accessible practices. We've just launched Visitor Ready, which is really exciting. So that's the entry level quality scheme, which is an online tool. So again, all of this is readily available and free for any business to access. So I think tap into all of that, but a good way to be able to tap into that and even to be aware that it's out there is to work with your destination organisation, your local visitor economy partnership. And we've heard a fair bit about how that's worked for Amy in her example. But use them as a route through to a lot of this free advice and support that's available to you. The whole point about not doing it in isolation, I know from a National Tourism Board perspective, obviously we do a lot of campaigns and promotional activity, but it's very thematic, is quite strong, particularly with an international market. So actually, pulling things together around food and drink itinerary for the North East is a brilliant way to attract international interest. So anything where you can collaborate across themes is really powerful. So you're not just there in isolation, trying to promote your own thing. You're actually working with other strong businesses, either geographically or thematically, across different areas, is a really powerful tool.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. That's been really, really interesting and insightful. I hope everybody's enjoyed that just as much as I have. I think we've kind of heard, how much passion and energy there is, I think, for the sector as well, and how there are these different perspectives. But there's a lot that you can do. I hope there's a lot that you can take away as an audience if you're there thinking about starting up in the sector, or if you've got a business and you're looking at diversifying. Maybe there's not just a lot of support there, but actually there's proof that this can be done, and that I think we can really tackle this issue of dispersal together, I think. So thank you very much.